Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Advancement Center and to the world of magic and miracles, the industry of magic and miracles, and hypersonic magic. There's a lot to deliver today, so I'm going to get right into it. Just as we have the four pillars of the new world, the magical flow of giving, the magical flow of healing, the magical flow of communications, and the magical flow of life itself. So we also have the four pillars of the industry of magic and miracles: the masculine, the feminine, creation, and need/desire. Each are vital, for without either being there, the others are not activated. The masculine is giving, the feminine is receiving. Creation is what we manifest, and desire, is the catalyst that ignites it all. So I had a conversation with someone at my job as they were trying to start a business after leaving a company where they were chief marketing officer, but they weren't happy, and they were finding themselves under the influence, you could say, of the corporate world. And they decided they were going to leave that position. And he did this in his own way, and coming to the place where he could walk away. And now he's trying to start something himself. And it's been slow, and things that he thought would happen haven't happened. But he told me the other day that he decided to open up an office here in Santa Barbara just to create a new momentum, a different flow. And he didn't know if that was the right thing to do because it's costs money. And when you don't have money coming in, you feel like that could be not a smart decision. But his wife supported him and said, no, you need to follow a different path. You need to step out, and it doesn't have to be forever, but we'll see what comes from it. And I was just congratulating him. And as we were about to part ways, I said, I want to talk to you just quickly about the industry of magic and miracles, and that's what you're stepping into, and that's the support that's there for you. And it's an industry, and you can feel it, just like maybe an industry you're trying to create. And he smiled and he didn't say anything because I didn't know how he would react to that. But he just said, I like that. I like the magic. And I said, great. And so I passed on to some of us here at the Advancement Center that story. And I said, he was, I don't remember the words, but what I was trying to communicate is he's the first member of the industry of magic and miracles, as all of us are the charter members, and each person will create their own personal industry within the industry of magic and miracles. But it was so exciting to feel it be received and to almost see the picture of everyone coming into the industry of magic and miracles and all the possibilities from that reality. So I know his life is about to be changed because he changed it in that moment. And my life was changed too because I expressed it so that it was real for me and real for him. And he got what he needed to be able to say, yeah, I like that. So those 4 pillars, giving, receiving, creating, and the need. And he had a need, and I was able to give. And if each of us must flex all those pillars at different times as we have the masculine in us and the feminine and creator, and we have a need and desire. And so we express those things often, and we now can pass on in the giving the industry of magic and miracles, the industry that houses magic and miracles or uses it to produce an industry. So this is something unusual that I don't normally do, but in flexing the need pillar, you give others the opportunity to flex their giving pillar. And then it becomes the receiver who gets to flex and feel that part of them in the industry of magic and miracles. So here at the Advancement Center, we're always delivering and giving without asking. And even though what I'm about to do is not asking, it's expressing a need to maintain what we do so lovingly and happily, and give you an opportunity to flex the pillar of giving and feel us receive. So on any of the invitations, there's a contribute button, and you're welcome to go there and send whatever you feel that comes to you to maintain the pillar and the opportunity of giving as we express a need. And as you express a need, it is given to you through the industry of magic and miracles. The magical flow of giving. I am the magical flow of giving. It is my time to come to the front and be fully known, seen, and felt so that humanity and its consciousness can be raised to the next level. Like a mighty river moves all debris in its path, I will push all the debris that has lodged just outside of your heart and force you into a freedom that only comes from the joy of giving. My flow will open your heart and destroy the fear that has resided in the hearts of all mankind. My coming to the front is a clear indication that the industry of magic and miracles is about to make its way to its place of prominence in the new world. I work very closely with the world of magic and miracles and the industry of magic and miracles. I am the magical flow of giving. My flow has no reliance on the dying world of logic and the use of the brain. It comes directly from the world of spirit and is felt and known in your being and in your heart. My magical flow of giving has always been within you, for everyone knows the indescribable feeling of giving, both for the giver and receiver. The awareness of that flow within us has gone from being like a mighty waterfall when we were kids to a trickle from a leaky faucet as we have become adults. We come into this world with our hands fully open, with palms up, and as we get older, we close one finger at a time because of the fear that we take on until we mostly stand in front of the world with two closed fists, only able to be pried open by guilt. It says in the Bible, give to everyone who asks you, and if anyone takes what belongs to you, do not demand it back. Give and you will receive. Your gift will return to you in full, pressed down, shaken together to make room for more, running over and poured into your lap. This is my magical flow of giving, and you've always had it inside of you. As that little child with your hands wide open, you owned nothing. Everything was available to whomever needed it at any given time. Food would appear, clothes would appear, and a hug and a kiss would appear just when you needed it. You didn't have to hold on to anything, for my flow would always bring you exactly what you needed. Therefore, you could freely give away all that you had, for you knew that my magical flow was real. As you got older, you found that others were not able to stay in my flow, and they, because of fear, began to take ownership of those possessions and that hug and kiss, and you found yourselves forgetting that my magical flow of giving was real. And you slowly joined them in their fear, one finger closing at a time, until you too have become owners and hoarders of all life's possessions, as each of you, through fear, closed your hearts to my magical flow of giving. So I am, through hypersonic magic and my flow, reigniting your connection with me and forcing you back to the freedom you once knew and lived as that child who bathed in my flow and had no fear because what they needed was always coming to them through my magical flow of giving. Yes, they are all connected, and the timing of these moments coming forward at the same time is no accident. Hypersonic magic will always act as the rocket fuel to propel you outside of the gravitational pull of the world of logic and all its subsystems. Feel yourself once again floating in the world of your creator. Feel yourself as that child again, with both hands open. One receives and the other gives. Remember those moments with a baby when you give them something and they smile and glow with the receiving of what was just handed to them. And then they turn and give it back to you so that you can feel what they felt in receiving it, and they can feel what you felt in giving it. This is who you are. This is what has always been inside of you. This is how you were free, and this is how you love. This is the magical flow of giving that you've always had inside of you and that you've always known exist. You've always wanted to live this way because you knew it could be done. And now you will have the opportunity to consciously choose to do that very thing that has always been in your heart. You will be the first to return to my flow, and you will lead the way to humanity's remembrance of its existence, one person at a time. You have lived with integrity, honor, and respect for all life, putting your needs behind the needs of your fellow man. This is why you will lead. You knew that if everyone in the world could live this way, no one would ever be without their need fulfilled, and abundance for all humanity would be achieved. For abundance will not be achieved when everyone has money. Abundance will be achieved when everyone has nothing. But through my magical flow of giving, like that child, you will actually have everything. It will all belong to you to receive and give away. A forced freedom that will begin in the hearts of mankind and spread into a knowing within their consciousness, bringing about a vibration that will be triggered from the remembrance of who they are, which will raise the consciousness of humanity one heart at a time. So now, once again, whenever there's a need, I will bring what is needed, just as your parents did for you. This made you feel rich, and that is because you were. You didn't know what your parents had to do to make that happen, and you won't specifically know what I have to do. Your parents worked hard and in some cases had to suffer to make you feel like you were rich. For me, it is easy, for it is who I am, what I came to do. For me, it is as natural as breathing. So there is no work and no suffering involved. The more you step into my magical flow of giving, the happier I am. This is my mission, and I will not rest until I see all humanity return to the freedom that comes from their relationship with me. I am the magical flow of living, and I love you. And now, chapter 2 of The Magic of Life. Suzanne opened her eyes slowly and felt the listless shadow of sleep creep in and take her into that special space where she felt perfect peace. Her eyes closed and she drifted off into the silence of oblivion that she had treasured all her life. She looked around and for a moment her energy dropped. Within an instant, she heard Simeon announce, "I'm still here." Suzanne burst into tears of joy at the happiness she had just been shown. Outside the Outside, the wind had died down, and the view from the front window of her house had transformed into something of absolute beauty. Suzanne wondered about the misery that she had seen out her window the previous day, which had mysteriously changed in one short day to paradise. The color of the water had changed. The sound of the waves was gentle, and the sun was actually shining. It was as if her whole world had changed. Suzanne moved away from the front window, and her eyes scanned the small cottage. Much to her surprise, there was food everywhere, not just leftovers, but food that her friends had brought over. Cakes and breads and treats that was sufficient to feed them all for a month. There was good, wholesome food, and it was everywhere. She wondered where it all came from and how she would store it all. Just then, young Jamie came racing into the room saying, "Mommy, Mommy, look what I've got." And there in her hand was a beautiful handmade doll. It was something that captured Suzanne's heart straight away. It was soft and fluffy, and it had character in its face. It was also so sweet and cuddly. "Isn't it beautiful?" she said to Jamie as she crouched down and placed her arms around her. Jamie's eyes were so bright and alive. She was excited, and she immediately pulled at Suzanne. "Come on, Mommy, let's see the rest of the presents." She grabbed Suzanne's by the hand and took her out into the kitchen, and there on the table was a small Christmas tree with a handwritten note in beautiful writing that said, "There is more to magic than just tricks. Enjoy the rest of your life. Lots of love, Simeon." Tears came to Suzanne's eyes as soon as she started to read, and Jamie, Samuel, and Martha all cried with her. Each of them had their own little toy, and each of them was so happy. It seemed like Jamie was taking Suzanne on a tour. She grabbed her mother's hand again. "Come on, Mommy, come on," demanded Jamie as she dragged Suzanne into the bedroom where the three children slept, and on their little beds were now cotton covers to keep them warm. Each one contained such beautiful colors to brighten up their day. "Look at this," said Jamie and Samuel excitedly as they jumped up and down on their beds and squealed. Martha cried and hugged her mother while she patted the bed. It was such a beautiful moment. It was at this point when Suzanne began to miss the presence of Simeon. She could feel Joe still watching over them, but she missed Simeon. And Joe knew the reason why. Simeon and Suzanne had been so close over many, many years, and Joe felt proud to be able to assist in the short number of years he had been together with Suzanne. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door, and it felt like they had all snapped out of a trance. They each ran out to open it, one behind the other, and as the door swung open, they saw a young fisherman standing there. The fisherman greeted Suzanne. I knew you needed something to eat, and I've been fishing for days. I've caught you some fish. I also heard that you had a party last night and that everybody came along, but I couldn't get here. I was busy cleaning all of the fish and had to put them into cold storage. Oh, Bill, said Suzanne, I'm so glad you're here. There's so many things to tell you. Please come in. Bill was still talking as he walked through the door, and while I was putting the fish into cold storage, this amazing thing happened to me. And while I was walking down to the jetty yesterday, this amazing thing happened to me, said Suzanne at the same time. They both stopped and looked at one another and smiled. Then Bill, being a gentleman, said, Well, you tell me what amazing thing happened to you. No, you tell me first, said Suzanne. Bill's eyes lit up as he explained, I just finished cleaning the fish and I was thinking about you. I always think about you, but I never thought of you before as anyone more than a great friend, someone I've grown up with, and I was so sad for you when Joe died. I've done the best I can to look after you, and I felt like I've been failing. Even though it had nothing to do with me, I still felt a sense of failure. But then out of nowhere, this voice said, Bill, Suzanne needs you. But I just shook my head and kept working. Then it said it again, Bill, Suzanne needs you. Suzanne sat and listened attentively to Bill's story. Bill continued. I stopped and looked up and saw a figure standing in front of me, a beautiful man who was sort of standing a fraction above the ground, and he was glowing. I asked him, Did you speak? And he replied, I did. I waited, but he never said another word, said Bill. I asked him, Did you say Suzanne needs me? And he said, I did. So I asked, Now? And he said, No, forever. So I sat down, but didn't know what to do next. I looked away and I looked back, and he was still there. I was just about to speak to him again, but he'd gone. So I've been sitting on the edge of the water for the last hour, wondering what I should do. And then the voice came again. Suzanne needs you. So here I am. Suzanne jumped up and wrapped her arms around him. Oh, Bill, that's so beautiful. And I do need you. I can tell you all about the person who spoke to you. Come and have a look around the house. Bill had no idea what was going on, for he was feeling quite peculiar. Somehow he had known deep inside that he loved this lady. She would walk past him every day and say hello with a great big smile, even though she was in trouble. Suzanne was someone he had gone to school with, he'd played with, he'd fished with, and had fun with, but never had he felt the way he was feeling at that moment. Never had he felt that way about anybody, and to be in such proximity to the girl who he'd wrestled with many times was totally unbelievable. His feelings were such that he was almost jumping out of his skin. His ability to focus on anything was almost zero. So when Suzanne told him, Come and have a look around the house, he had trouble focusing and understanding what she was saying. He simply looked around the house, a house that looked like any other. Suzanne turned to him with joy and said, Have a look at all of this food. Have a look at all of the gifts. Come and have a look at the children's room. It struck him then as he asked, Where did all this come from? I'm not sure, but I know it had something to do with the same person who appeared to you. I know a lot of the food came from our friends, but friends who didn't have any food before. Friends who were as bad off as we were, and suddenly, out of nowhere, here's this Christmas tree and note and these coverings for the beds. Feel them, they're real, said Suzanne as she showed everything to Bill. Bill leaned over and felt the cotton bed covers. He was so amazed at how soft they were and how warm they felt. He immediately turned to Suzanne and said, They feel like magic. They are magic, and you're magic, and everything around me is magic, she said as she smiled gently. Bill almost exploded inside with joy and happiness. He gently put his arm around Suzanne and said, "You know, Suzanne, I think I love you." Suzanne responded, and they embraced and held each other with such relief and joy in their hearts. It seemed like there was no one else in the house. Everything was so quiet and peaceful. When they finished their embrace, they looked around at the three beautiful children standing there, just looking with their eyes wide open and big grins on their faces. When Suzanne looked at them and smiled, they started to giggle. They giggled and giggled until they began laughing and then ran off to play with their beautiful new toys. Bill had no idea where to go from here. He just stood there watching all of this, knowing that it was all going to be a part of his life, yet having no idea how to approach it or how to plan it or even mention it. That was until Suzanne turned around and said, "Come and sit down, Bill. I want to talk to you." Suzanne and Bill sat down at the table that she could never get clean, but somehow it now looked like it was sparkling. "I'm going to make you a cup of tea, and I want to talk to you seriously about the picture that came to me. I also want to talk to you about Simeon, the person who appeared to you and who appeared to me." Bill responded immediately. He sat and waited with anticipation. Suzanne walked over to the stove that had been burning since early morning and put the kettle on before coming back and sitting down. Suzanne explained, "Bill, the picture that came to me was extensive, and it may sound a little strange when I put it to you, but there is something driving me at the moment that I don't understand. I'm sure that it's the same thing that is driving you." Bill was fascinated, but he didn't say anything. He sat and listened intently to what Suzanne had to say. She continued, "All of my life, I have known that there is somebody here on earth that I would settle down properly with, and I've always known there was somewhere outside of here I would feel totally calm and happy. I'm now starting to see the picture. You see, Simeon appeared to me on the track that leads down to the jetty. He actually walked with me and spoke with me. He's real. I actually put my arms around him and gave him a kiss, and I could feel his beauty. I felt a connection between the two of us. It was absolutely amazing, and I've just felt that same connection when you and I were together. So somehow what Simeon has passed on to me when I kissed him is passed on to me each time I am close to you." "It's funny," said Bill. "I couldn't believe the feelings I had when I stood next to you, and I'm still having those feelings. It's something that I've never experienced before. It's out of this world." Suzanne couldn't believe her ears. This was the exact picture she had seen many years ago. It was like deja vu, only better. This was actually happening. The other must have been a dream. No, it couldn't have been, she thought. It was the same, so it had to be real. "Bill, when Simeon took me down to the jetty, all of this food appeared," she said. "It was the best fish catch that I've ever seen on this island, and all of it was brought back to this house. How he did it, I don't know. It was just like it lifted off the ground and disappeared into the cloud that surrounded us. And when we got back to the house, there it was again, along with the tree and a note." "What note?" asked Bill. "I've got to show you this note," said Suzanne. But as she handed it to Bill, it disappeared, and a tear came to her eye. "The note's obviously for me. I feel sad that I've lost it," she said. Just then a voice spoke to her very clearly. It said, "Many things that are given to you so that you can grow and so that you can add your essence to the world. That gift is passed on, and even though you're excited about it, you may lose it. So describe what has been given to you. Don't pass it on. Describe it by showing its effect on you." There were such a lot of words for Suzanne to catch, but the feelings were clear, and she smiled. She allowed herself to glow and shimmer the way Simeon had shown her. And she watched the response in Bill's eyes. She was certainly glowing, and so was he. Well, that was a big one, said Suzanne. So as you can see, much of what has been given to me is magic, and you can see that some really special things have taken place. I feel wonderful, and I wish to stay feeling this good, and for that to happen, I would like us to stay together. Once again, Bill could hardly contain himself. He almost burst with joy, and the tears came to his eyes, and he said, I have no idea what to say. I don't know what to do or what we've got to do. But yes, I'd love for us to be together. Just then, at that moment, the three children ran in and sat down at the table. Bill smiled and said, yes, and you and you and you, we will all be together. They all cheered and laughed and had a wonderful time. Suzanne knew that she didn't have to pass on the picture. It had already occurred. The magic of life was the foundation for the industry of magic and miracles. It was the first pillar that contains all the pillars of giving, receiving, creating, and the need and desire that is the catalyst to it all. In that chapter was the industry of magic and miracles played out right before us. And whatever is happening in your life, it's the same. It's all here. And I know you can feel it through what I am transmitting. So we flex the muscle of need, and we flex the muscle of giving, and the pillar of receiving, and the pillar of creation. And we build the industry of magic and miracles, which contains a perfect life, perfect health, and a magic future for everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. I am David.